Coming up on Tech News Today, the Wii is here. The new Wii is called the Wii U. We'll evaluate what we think of that name. Also, Sony's 3D apology. RSA finally cops to the fact that they have total insecurity. And Terpster and Prager. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, June 7th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by FreshBooks, the easy online invoicing service that gets you paid quickly and makes you look professional. Get started with a free package at freshbooks.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Iyaz, Akhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And Sarah Lane is out sick, poor thing.
Oh. Yeah.
We told her to stay home and sweat it out.
Yeah, hopefully she didn't leave germs everywhere. But
Yeah,
she
you're
advised,
sitting in her seat.
She advised I do not lick the chair.
Do not lick Sarah
Which is my
Lane's chair.
normal
As you
pre-show
normally
ritual.
do.
Right. So if Iyaz is a little off for today's show, now you know why. But it takes two men to fill the place of one tiny woman.
Continents.
Yeah. On two continents, exactly. Joining us from Revision 3, co-founder of Revision 3, Mr. David Prager. Hey, it's good to have you on the TNT.
Hey,
Dave.
thanks for having me. This is my first time on TNT. I'm very excited.
I'm glad you were able to join us. David and I go way back. We started a month apart at ZDTV in 1999.
Indeed, we did. I used to submit articles to you every day. I think twice a day or once a day. I don't remember.
I think just once a day to start. It might have gotten to twice a day at one point. But we bonded when we were one of the three people left behind from Comdex coverage.
Yeah, the 1999 Comdex. We were stuck at the office.
Secret
in
origins.
San Francisco.
Also joining us, the Terpster, Mr. Mark Turpin.
Hello.
So many things.
Too many
TerpsterVision.tv.
things. Too many.
The Instance. The Movielicious. Welcome back to the show, Terpster.
It's good to be back. It's good. I don't have any kind of old tech heritage, really. I feel like we should... Oh, yeah, remember when we were sorting punch cards?
You were on one of the
Oh,
episodes
God.
a while back. Like, you go back at least 3 weeks, right? So that's
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
Remember that? I remember that.
Yeah.
Terpster
we
and
were
I...
talking about tech and stuff.
Yeah,
Oh.
but this small company called Apple and stuff.
Oh yeah, when I used to bust tables at the Greenville College alumni dinners on the weekend, Terpster and I, that's when we met
Bond spiritually.
Yeah.
back in 1987.
I was actually a janitor there, and they
Yeah.
used to leave their programming documents out, and I'd come in at night and just finish them for them.
Yeah, that was nice of you. You were like the documents fairy.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to call you a fairy. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Top story today, Nintendo had their press conference at E3 this morning. As expected, we got a look at the brand new console, previously under the codename Project Cafe, now called Wii U.
I mean, Project Cafe sounds like a pretty bad name to start with. I mean, sound like, okay, that'll stay internal. But the Wii U saying, I think it was the president and CEO of Nintendo saying, well, the Wii sounded silly when you first heard it too, but we think you'll love the Wii U.
Let's get it out of the way. Everybody's like pissing on the name today. I think it's a great name.
Why do you think
Do
that?
you guys remember the Nintendo Revolution? You remember that?
See, yeah, that was a code name that then it turned into the Nintendo Wii. I liked the name Revolution. Now I've gotten used to the Wii. I think the Wii U means a lot. It says it's we, but it's you. We're all together.
See,
And
I
you were
hear
in.
it more. Yeah, I hear it more like there's an emergency, maybe a fire. Someone's phoned the fire brigade. What do you hear? Wii U, Wii U, Wii U. You know, you're always thinking, yeah, come on, it's in a rush. It's got
that's
to go
brilliant
places.
marketing.
It also is an expression of enthusiasm. Wii U!
See,
can
I
hear-
think
you
of
can
it
hear
as it
Mario
sounds like an
saying it.
institute of higher learning, like they've just got the Wii University.
Yeah,
all
totally.
good things. All of these are good things. All right, now that we've got that out of our system,
Okay.
the console actually looks pretty damn badass.
Well, from what we've seen of the console, which
Actually,
is
the
very little.
controllers look really
Yeah,
good.
Nintendo showed off the controller with a 6.2-inch touchscreen. We've seen this. It looks like a tablet, effectively. And it is not a portable gaming console. Apparently, the video streams from the console, the Wii U, to the Wii controller, which they haven't named yet, by the way, because you can use Wiimotes and you can use all kinds of Wii accessories like the balance board already with it. But this thing still doesn't have a name.
It'd be called the Wii C because you see it I haven't thought that through.
I think it'll be
thought
called
it
the
looked
Wii.
stupid when I first saw it. I honestly thought Fisher-Price had teamed up with Nintendo and made like my first Game Boy or something like that. But the more I think about it, it's basically the same size as an iPad. And I think, I game on this all the time.
Well, it's 3 inches. It's a 6.2-inch screen, so it's about 3 inches smaller.
I hope so.
No, but the actual controller itself, the whole thing.
Sure.
And so I thought just holding it in my hands, it probably will work. It still seems a little bit crazy just being massive. But yeah, I think it could work.
Well, what did you guys think of all the different uses they put it to? They showed it as being a scope on a rifle. So when you've got a cityscape up on the main TV, you could have like a scope view on the touchscreen controller sitting on a rifle mount of a Wiimote. You could put it on the floor and it would act as the tee for a golf game. They showed people doing video conferencing. There's an accelerometer in there, a gyroscope, a camera. You can take pictures and send them, take videos and send them to the television. You can even play games on the touchscreen controller while somebody's watching something else on TV. You don't have to have the main screen be the television.
It just kind of seems like the Nintendo DS. I mean, effectively, you have two screens. So your first non-touchscreen screen is your television. And your second touchscreen device is this Wii controller, the Wii U controller. Or a lot of people were screaming, Dreamcast, it's the Dreamcast, because you're playing like a game like Madden. You can see all your plays on this device instead of somebody even having any idea what you're doing. I thought it was all right. I mean, the things we saw today were all demos, right? There wasn't a single working game available. So I'm hoping that it's as cool as they say it will be, but I don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah, this is not coming out till 2012. My guess is we will see this in action for real with all the proper naming, with a release date and a price, which we also didn't get, at next year's E3. Which is what they did with the Revolution. They came out with the Nintendo Revolution, they showed it off as a concept model, and then a year later they renamed it the Wii and made it official. I think they're actually going ahead and give us the name this time, or maybe they'll change it, who knows. But we will see it all official at next year's E3, and I'm guessing it'll come out in time for the holidays in 2012. What they made a big deal out of marketing speak-wise was we're expanding from the casual gamer to bring the hardcore gamers back. And they showed off lots of EA titles. Darksiders 2 will be there on launch. Tekken, Batman Arkham City, Assassin's Creed, Ghost Recon Online. David, does that work for you? Or do you think that brings the hardcore gamer back to Nintendo?
I think a lot of the hardcore gamers have been interested in what Xbox and Sony have always provided, which is hardcore graphics. But I've always thought that Nintendo has been a true innovator in adding and innovating new dynamics to the video game experience, and I think they're continuing to do that. When they came out with the Wiimote, when the Wii came out, it was a brand new way of interfacing with a controller and your TV, and they weren't focusing on the hardcore crazy graphics. They focused on the gaming experience, and I think this right here shows that they're continuing on that path, and I'm always excited to see them innovate with ideas that aren't just sheer power. But the thing is, they're going to be the first one to the market with the next gen console before the PS4 or whatever you're going to call it, or the next Xbox, not counting handheld devices. And I think that they're just taking the technologies available today. From a graphics perspective, they'll probably be just as good, if not better, than the PS3 and the Xbox. But then they're going to have their new innovative ideas on how the experience works and take some of those new graphics and enable them to do hardcore, quote, hardcore games, as well as be able to continue to innovate with these fantastic experiences. I'm a big fan. I'm not a huge gamer, though, so I'm kind of always been more interested in the things that Nintendo does, maybe, than the latest.
Sure. You're the guy who already likes the Wii, and this is just more and better Wii.
Yeah, although what I'd like to see them do the Xbox Connect as well, because Xbox Connect took what the Wiimote does, and yes, it's the first version, it's not the best, but I think the Xbox Connect, if I saw Nintendo's version of that, I'm guessing that I'd be blown away.
Terpster, you're more in the hardcore gaming sphere. Does this bring you into the tent?
I don't know. I mean, I'm a little bit undecided. It's a little bit of a Wii U, won't you? But at the moment, I would say no. For most kind of core gamers, they're going to be looking at it and going, okay, so you're saying it's Arkham City, Assassin's Creed, Darksiders 2, Battlefield, probably Modern Warfare as well. I can already get all of those on the console I already have. What I think it does is it gives more of an entry and a more of a growth for the current kind of Wii market, which is kind of more of the kind of casual gamers. And so for developers, it's nice because it it allows them to play these popular games and gets more people playing the core games. But I don't think it's going to drive people in floods across to it. But it is one less barrier for entry for someone like myself, because I wouldn't look at it like I do with the Wii, where I see it's a bit gimmicky, it's a bit of a party console. If I want something just to kind of play with either online or by myself, the Wii isn't my first choice. The Wii U, however, if I was looking to get a new console, then yeah, I'd definitely consider it now.
Why is that? What changes your mind with the Wii U?
Well, the thing now is obviously it's HD, so I kind of feel a little bit better about my TV. I don't feel like that was as much of a waste of money. And then it doesn't have any kind of limitations in terms of what it can't play. So when you talk about their big games, you talk about Modern Warfare, you talk about Battlefield, those big games that you kind of want to play. If you had a Wii, you couldn't play them really. You could play a version of Black Ops, for example, on the Wii, but it's nowhere near as good or graphically or even gameplay wise as you'd find on like the 360 or the PS3.
So it's the HD for you more than the control pads with the touchscreen.
The control pads, like I said, I mean, unless there's something really magical about how I use that with a game. And like I said, I mean, with Darksiders 2, Assassin's Creed, those games, I don't think are going to use it any more than, oh, here's a little gimmick that we thought we can plug this in. I don't think it's going to change any of those core games to the point where they are better on the Wii U. And so I think really for me, it's just a case that it can also do them. So if I was to get one, it wouldn't be limited to just kind of party games or kind of Wii games. It can also do the core games as well.
Right.
So it's good. I think my favorite thing though out of all of it is that it's backwards compatible with the old Wiimotes and the old Wii games, because I think that I feel sorry for so many parents out there when you see the controller, like they haven't talked about price yet, and I'm sure it'd be subsidized, but that's still going to be an expensive bit of kit. And if you've had if you've got kids and you've got 2 kids, then instantly you've got to buy a second one of those. Whereas what they've done is they've made it compatible with the Wii Wiimotes and the nunchucks and such like that. So you will be able to get along with a lot of the games and a lot of features with existing kit that a lot of these people will already have. So yeah, I think they did well with that. They could have completely cut off their back catalogue, but they've embraced it, and that's a good thing to see.
The other announcements that we'll actually see sooner involve the 3DS, Mario Kart 3DS, Luigi's Mansion among the 3DS games shown off, virtual consoles for 3DS, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D will be launched for the 3DS next week, So the 3DS getting a lot of cool games there as sort of a side note to that. Sony had their announcement last night, and you can sum it up a lot faster than the Nintendo announcement. You're going to get the PlayStation Vita, so the rumored name was in fact the name of the NGP, the portable console. You'll get the PlayStation Vita, $249, or a 3G model. In the U.S., it'll run only on AT&T for $299, so extra $50 if you want the 3G. They announced a PlayStation 3D monitor and 3D glasses. The glasses are only $69, so it's actually probably the best buy of 3D active shutter glasses you can get if it's compatible with your television. And they apologized.
Their TV was a 3D $500 television. It's about 24-inch, I think. So you can play this. It's a PlayStation branded television. I think now everybody's going to think about when they think about Sony is, okay, is what they showed off yesterday, is it going to compete with Nintendo? Because now you got to think about this. But they already had remote play, didn't they?
I don't think anybody's going to think that. I think everybody's going to think Sony apologized.
Do you think that's going to be the headline?
Yeah, let's play the video. This is what everybody was wanting to know. Are they going to acknowledge it or not? Everybody was talking about that on the blogs. This is what they had to say.
PlayStation. And I want to apologize both personally and on behalf of the company for any anxiety that we've caused you. I know we took you away from doing what you enjoy most, connecting and gaming with friends all over the world and enjoying the many entertainment options on PlayStation Network. And it is you that both causes us to be humble and amazed at the amount of dedication and support you continue to give to the PlayStation brand.
So is that a good enough apology for everybody?
Sure.
This is like the 6th one.
I'm just surprised you didn't bust out screaming at the hackers. I mean, the fact that you apologized to to the millions of people that they've affected. I don't know, 77 million people. You don't want them ticked off. But there are a bunch of really passionate, angry people out there against Sony, constantly going after their servers. I mean, I'm surprised he just kept his cool.
It's something that had to be said. It was something inevitable that he was going to end up having to say. But I think the fact of the matter at the end of the day is if you have a massive network of connected people who are having to share information, you're going to be vulnerable. I think it happened to Sony just as easily as it could have happened to any other network. I really do.
All right, so after the apology now, let's get back. What do you remember about the announcement?
The PSP name is the Vita, right? The NGP is now that.
Is that exciting?
Well, I was just thinking about the fact that it's coming with 3G. I mean, that's not a normal thing, at least as far as I can remember. The PSP was just PSP.
Is it contract-based?
Don't know
or
yet.
is that like Kindle?
They didn't announce any of the contract
I doubt it's going to be
details.
like Kindle if you're going to be doing the bandwidth of shared gaming.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it'll be contract-based, but the question is, will it be cheaper than $299 if you sign a contract? Will they subsidize it?
I mean, it could be. I mean, $299 though for a full-fledged, next generation portable, the NGP, the Vita. Anyway, I mean, this thing can do a whole lot of good compared to a lot of these casual. If you want to just play a casual game, right, you can get a phone and you can go ahead and play on those things. But the Vita has a lot more going for it. Like about a 5-inch screen, a touchpad on the back. Do you remember if they cut the specs of RAM? Did it go down to 512 of RAM, or did it go to stay at 1 gig? Because that was a rumor for a while that Sony was going to cut some of the specs to keep the price down on this thing. So I haven't found out anything about that yet.
With all of these items, though, I keep thinking that there's more and more kind of reason to go off and go get like a MiFi little kind of mobile Wi-Fi 3G thing, because I've got my iPad, I've got my phone. If I got one of these, I'm bound to have more Wi-Fi stuff. I just think that I don't know if it's worth providing the 3G option. As much as if that is the only point of difference for $50, I think that $50 would be better spent on a modem, and to go from there. Until
they get a unified plan where you can have all your devices
right,
under one.
AT&T
that would be sweet.
That's something that they might be working on shared data plans.
PS3's 3D monitor can also be used for 2 people to play the same game at once and get different views, because it essentially takes the way 3D works, which is to send 2 different signals to each eye, and sends 2 different signals to 2 players. So you get 2D representations of the video.
Does that mean you have to wear there's 2 sets of different glasses, like one that's polarized one way and the other one's polarized the other?
I don't think they're polarized. I think they're active shutter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Exactly, yeah. So the glasses do all the work for you. What I think that the main thing is, this has been like the thing for multiplayer gaming in the same area since the dawn of time. Back in the day of like GoldenEye and things like that, we used to get a cardboard box and just tape it down the middle of the screen.
Yeah, we used to do that too.
I would hate to see what the kind of share prices for those cardboard box factories, those producers, has gone to now. Because with news like this is death. This is death to the cardboard box screen divider. So it's a little bit.
Well, thank goodness cardboard boxes are diversified and they can overcome this.
Exactly now, but still, a little bit scary if you're in the cardboard production facility industry. It's a little bit scary.
Now, there was non-gaming news today to talk about as well. RSA finally admitted, Secure ID. Remember that thing that got hacked back in March and we said, really, it's not a problem? And all these rumors lately about Lockheed and L3 and Northrop Grumman being hacked? We're totally screwed. RSA has offered to replace the Secure ID tokens used by its customers to log into company systems and banks, and they admit that info from the hack against them was used against Lockheed. They didn't say anything about L3 or Northrop Grumman. Co-founder of the security firm Secure Envoy and a former RSA manager, Andy Kemshall, told Ars Technica, BBC, that the algorithm used by RSA to generate the numbers is available in the public domain. So the only thing that stops a hacker from creating numbers is knowledge of what is called the seed record, and that's what was taken from RSA in the hack back in March. So the way these things work, anybody who's played Warcraft or used PayPal with these tokens knows that you put in your password and then it asks you what's the number on your dongle, on your little thing you've got in your hand. And you look at that and there's a new number every 30 to 60 seconds, depending on what kind of model you've got, and you type that in. Well, that is based on an algorithm that is calculating that number based on a seed number, which is a very long number. It's not a number you're going to guess that's associated with your account. So the point of weakness there is if I can get your seed number, I can then go find the algorithm, because the algorithm is now public domain, and then I can use that algorithm to calculate your seed number and figure out what number is being shown on your token, on your little device anytime you want.
I could just show you now.
And so, well, you could do that too. That's much easier.
It's that one.
Okay.
Can you log in?
You might not want to do that.
But they need to know my password. They need to know my Battle.net. There's a lot of
two-factor authentication requires 2 factors. You just gave them 1.
Can they get my seed number from that?
No. They should not.
I guess we'll find out now.
They should not be able to.
Email us if you got a seed number.
I am 47% sure that they can't.
Right. Can't do it that way round.
Can't do it that way.
What do you think about the timing of this announcement? Is it just because something really cool just happened with Nintendo? They're like, nobody's going to notice this. Let's put this out now.
Yeah, do you think they put it out on E3? Like, we'll admit it while everyone's distracted by the WWDC and
3D.
E3.
And then it's like,
well, there's no other news.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's a great time to release anything. If you know of, like, for example, in the gaming industry, there's a lot of gaming kind of press award ceremonies coming up in the later in the year. And if you've got a bad thing to say about a game, the day after the award ceremony is the day to do it. Everyone's hungover, they're not up. You know, it's a great time to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something similar here. Good time. Well done.
Let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, FreshBooks, freshbooks.com. Even if you've been to an award ceremony the night before and you're hungover, you can still easily invoice people and collect the money you need from the work you did that day using FreshBooks. If you're a small business owner, consultant, freelancer, you know that invoicing is more painful than a hangover, but it doesn't have to be. If you use FreshBooks, all you do is set up your clients. That's the hard part. As long as you know your client's name, address, phone number.
no seed number necessary.
The things that, you don't need a seed number. The things you need to know to invoice, you put those into FreshBooks, and then FreshBooks does all the hard work for you after that. They create the professional-looking invoice. They send the email. They follow up on due dates with reminders. They collect the money. They have 11 ways of taking payments. Pretty much nobody can deny being able to pay you using FreshBooks. But even if they're old school and they're like, nope, we need a piece of paper. We don't truck with this digital. FreshBooks can do that for you too. For a small charge, they'll print out your invoices and mail them for you. You don't have to lick the stamps or anything. Try them out. You get 3 clients absolutely free. Go to freshbooks.com, set up those 3 clients. You're going to love it. It's not very expensive to set up more than 3 clients if you have more than 3 clients. And if you tell them Tech News Today sent you, you'll be registered to win a free cake. They give away a free birthday cake every week.
Yeah, so you don't have to lick the stamps, but you can lick the icing.
You could exactly save that saliva for licking the icing. Because you'll need it. We actually got one of the cakes. They're very delicious. It doesn't even have to be your birthday. They just call them birthday cakes because, well, that's fun.
Who doesn't like birthday cake?
Yeah.
It's a nice excuse as well. It makes you feel less guilty about eating a whole cake.
Yes,
You're like,
exactly,
it's my birthday. It's fine. I eat it all.
It's my FreshBooks birthday. All right. Thanks to FreshBooks for their support of Tech News Today. Free Press filed a complaint with the FCC accusing Verizon of limiting customer tethering options on LTE phones. Now, here's the logic here. Verizon agreed to open access rules when they bid and won the rights to use the 700 megahertz C block back in 2008. Those open access rules were put in place as a condition of Google entering the bidding. Google said, you want us to bid on this block and drive up the price, you got to make open access rules. Those open access rules forbid carriers from trying to deny, limit, or restrict the ability of their customers to use the devices and applications of their choice. Free Press is saying, since Verizon phones don't have access to otherwise available tethering apps in the Android marketplace, this violates Verizon's open access provisions. However, it's Google doing the blocking. Granted, they're only doing the blocking for Verizon phones, probably at Verizon's request, but Verizon says, hey, that's Google's problem, not mine.
The question is, how open do they have to be? I mean, the fact that, are they stopping side loading of these applications? Can you still tether even though you're not using it through the Android marketplace? Does Amazon have on their marketplace, or I think there's even like a third, there's Rock marketplace. There's all kinds of different app stores you can go to on Android. How open does Verizon have to be to comply with these terms?
David, do you have a opinion about this? Do you think that Verizon is able to deflect this off onto Google, or should they just say, look?
I don't know. I don't have the full understanding of like what their terms of service are for their users. I know that like there's no. I'm pretty sure that there's nothing that allows them to stop someone from being able to tether to a device at all.
Yeah, but the rules of the 700 megahertz spectrum forbid them from trying to deny, limit, or restrict the ability of their customers to use the devices and applications of their choice. So even if they're sideloading, they can't try to restrict. Even if there's a way around it, the way this is phrased is you're not allowed to try to deny, limit, or restrict. And that's a limitation.
You know the lawyers are all over this. The question is, how do they ask Google? Do they say, would you mind taking care of this? Or do they say, you must do this if you want to be on our service? I mean, it's all going to come down to semantics at the end of the day, I think.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of the 700 megahertz spectrum. It sounds like some sweet kind of alien place. I don't know, it sounds like a Thor bit in the film. You know, the 700 megahertz spectrum. It's good. It's like the Phantom Zone.
Does that sound like that to anyone else but Terpster?
A little bit.
I think I covered the spectrum so long in 2008 that it stopped having any magic for me.
I always think spectrum, I think of Philadelphia.
You think of Rainbow? Well, you're thinking of the Rainbow Bridge, which is a spectrum.
No, I'm thinking about there was an arena in Philadelphia called the Spectrum.
David, what does it make you think of?
I don't know, but I think what's more important is I mean, if you think about, you've got Verizon involved with Google right now in net neutrality for mobile devices, and it kind of makes me think a little bit more about what's going on in the background related to the business deals on how they're able to get money for the use of more bandwidth. And the whole thing comes down to being able to charge people money. Guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly. They want to be able to charge that $30 to get folks to pay for tethering. No doubt about it. But they have agreed to these open access provisions. Now Google and Verizon are buddies, and Google now says, along with Verizon, we don't think any limits should be placed by the FCC on wireless carriers. That was their net neutrality joint statement that they put out last year. But before that, in 2008, Google was pushing for openness, and they forced it on Verizon. So, I think you nailed it. It's going to come down to what the interpretation of how much of an effect Verizon had on causing Google to block these tethering apps from the marketplace.
And Google's everybody's friend for a while. I mean, like they were on Verizon for a while, and they're like, hey, by the way, our official phone is now on Sprint. You can get the Google Nexus S there. So, I mean, they seem to just be partnering with everybody and anybody because their agenda isn't, oh, we want to help you. They just want to be on everything, everywhere, at any cost.
The first bit of Apple's new iCloud is available for download today as part of Apple's iTunes 10.3. You can upgrade your iTunes from 10.2 to 10.3, and you'll be able to see your purchase history for apps, songs, and books in iTunes. Now, this also showed up without you having to do anything on your iPhone in the App Store and the iTunes app on iPhones and iPads. Paid content took a look at the fine print of the terms of service that you have to agree to when you install the new iTunes 10.3. A couple of things of interest. Re-downloads are limited to 10 associated devices, as Steve Jobs said, but only 5 of those can be computers.
Okay, 5. Those are ones that run iTunes.
So you get 10 devices. You could have 10 iPhones. You could have 10 iPads. Or you can have 5 Mac laptops or Mac Pros or iMacs.
But if you have like one iMac and like 9 devices, that works too. Is that right?
You can only have a maximum of 5 computers out of your 10 associated devices. The rest of them can be tablets and phones.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think it was even yesterday's press event in WWDC, Steve Jobs was demoting the PC down to the level of an iPhone, an iPad, and every other device. They're all the same device.
Why are these? If these are all the same devices, why can I only have 5 computers associated with my account?
That's probably just the music licensing rights. I mean, that used to be the old standard. Remember the 5 maximum for how many times you could stream a song?
Couldn't they change those rights to say it's now 10 devices?
Well, I mean, they were trying to get everybody on board with this, not a streaming service, but a re-download service. This is probably just a concession.
So the music industry is worried, like, well, if we allow them to have 10 computers, then they'll pirate like crazy.
Because it's easier.
5 is safe.
You have a file system, right? You have a computer actually has a file system versus going into an iOS and trying to get those files out of there. It's a little bit more.
No one could ever wirelessly sync using the new iCloud.
A little trickier is what I'm saying.
They just made it less tricky in this whole thing. Anyway,
well, it worked for them. Their attorneys said, "Hey, look, that worked."
Also,
they did the same thing with DRM. You know, when we had DRM, you could only have 5 computers to be able to play a specific song that was the iTunes DRM protection.
Still true on apps and books and TV shows and movies. Those are still limited to 5.
So does it frustrate you that you can only use 5 computers?
Well, you know what was really frustrating is you could only have 5 devices before. And so if
Yeah.
you owned an iPad, an iPhone, and 2 computers, that was
enough.
That meant you were at your limit.
More.
If you wanted to add another computer in another room, you were going to reach your max. So where it was a problem is if you had a family, right? And you were like, we're all going to be on the same account, save us money, and we can all share the music. You weren't able to do that.
So they were stifling growths of families? That was what was happening?
I don't think they were causing people not to have babies.
Based on iTunes, I think that's what happened. And that's why they had to change it.
I don't know.
I think that's a good sting for the show, a little teaser there. You can drop that one in.
Well, and to stop people from sharing accounts, it says you may switch an associated device to a different account only once every 90 days. So you can't share an iPad and say, well, you buy your music, I'll buy mine, but we'll just log in as each other when we use the iPad. No, it can only be associated with one account every 90 days. So for 90 days, I'm stuck with my account or my wife's account if we shared it. Again, you're discouraging people from sharing devices. Just some silliness in the terms of service here. Otherwise, I thought the purchase history stuff looked pretty neat. I had bought a lot more music than I expected.
Are you embarrassed by your selection?
Why would you ask that?
Just curious.
I'm embarrassed by the music I bought?
Yeah, sure. Like, I can't believe I bought this 2 years ago.
Oh, no. I have no shame. The Financial Times has launched a web app and is encouraging people to use it and bypass Apple's iTunes store. In fact, they say if you go to apps.ft.com, we're encouraging our readers to switch immediately to the new FT web app. It says on the sell page that the web app has no download, no need to visit an app store for the latest version, improved performance, and a greater range of content. I tried it out on my iPad. You go to apps.ft.com. It asks you to make a home screen button for the web app, and then it asks you to approve it to download more than 50 megabytes of data so that you can read it offline, and it works just like an app, but it's built in HTML5.
Well, Apple's always said they had 2 app stores, right? The Open Web, HTML5, and they had their regular app store. I mean, as long as Apple doesn't do anything to block this, I mean, that's going to basically make them look like fools if they block this because they want their 30% cut that they normally would get if this was a subscription app that was in the App Store.
Exactly.
I don't see them doing that, though. I mean, obviously, it would make them hypocrites first and foremost. But if you look at the mass market, a lot of people aren't going to look on the web for an app. They're going to go through the App Store. I think you were saying earlier that actually the FT tell you in their app that you get from the App Store, you should probably go online and get our other one. But I would always see there's a lot of benefit in being in the App Store. The amount of time I waste just sitting there going through, the top charts and just skipping through and seeing what's there or going in new and notable. I much prefer that interface than actually having to specifically hunt out, certain apps. But, if they provide something extra or some benefit to me, then I'm happy to go in a different avenue to pick them up. But otherwise, I'm happy with my App Store, and I'm going to carry on using it.
I think Apple has made a mistake by driving a major company into figuring out how to make this work outside of the App Store. And if they can make it work, a lot of people will follow. David?
I think this is fantastic. I'm a huge... I thoroughly understand exactly why the Financial Times is doing this. I hope the Wall Street Journal does it. I hope the New York Times does it. I hope Time Magazine does it. I hope half of every publisher does it, because I honestly don't have as much of a problem in using, if you have something specifically designed for a specific tablet or specific type of mobile device, and you're using it through HTML5, and HTML5 provides the capabilities that most people wouldn't even be able to tell the difference whether or not they're using an app that they downloaded or using it through a specific browser interface, I'm all for it. And I am completely on the side. If I was a publisher of, magazine or news type content, I wouldn't want to be at the behest of Apple to provide them 30% of my revenue of any in-app purchases, as well as having to have Apple and be beholden to them, and who the data of the users that I'm having has to interface through Apple. I want to be in control of my own users. So I think that Apple has done a terrible job in having to force publishers to do this, and I applaud the Financial Times for making an experience that works just as good and putting it somewhere else, at least just as good according to the experience that you said you had, Tom.
All right, our last story, we're going to try not to get Terpster thrown in jail. The Attorney General for the United Kingdom, Dominic Grieve, has said that individuals can be prosecuted for contempt of court for publishing sensitive material on Twitter, particularly material that has been restricted from publication by what's called a super injunction. So they have a law in the UK. If I'm a famous person and I don't want a fact about myself, even if it's true to be published, I can get a super injunction, which not only prevents people from publishing the fact, but prevents them from talking about the fact that they have been prevented from publishing the fact.
Plus, it sounds super badass.
Yeah.
You know, you got an injunction? No, I got a super injunction. I'm all over that.
The world never knows.
So Ryan Giggs is feeling good for a while. I've got a super injunction until all of a sudden everybody starts talking about Ryan Giggs on Twitter and how this footballer has taken out an injunction to block reports of an alleged relationship with Imogen Thomas. Turns out that that's publishing. So everybody who talks about it on Twitter would be breaking this law and could actually go to jail if someone prosecuted them.
I mean, the thing is it's very hard, obviously, to police. And what we saw in the past was a lot of kind of what I call kind of Spartacusing, where basically everyone just started tweeting it because ultimately, if everyone has tweeted it, they can't send everyone to jail. In theory, they could probably go to the first one. I don't know. But ultimately, there's safety in numbers. The real thing I think this has highlighted to a lot of people is how pointless and useless a super injunction is. No one would have cared about Ryan Giggs having an affair. It might have been in the papers for a week and then gone because we've seen it with football stars in the past. Where Ryan Giggs will forever be remembered is, for example, if you go to the Wikipedia super injunction page, he is now cited in part of the definition. And so he will forever be remembered for his infidelities, purely because he tried to hide behind it. And again, as we were chatting about before, it's only in England and Wales, so you can tweet about it. Someone in Scotland can tweet about it. Someone in Ireland can tweet about it. It's just if you tweet about it in England or Wales. So again, it just seems completely stupid because everyone can read about it still. Everyone can still find out about it. They're just not allowed to talk about it if they happen to reside within an area where that is illegal. But I guess that's kind of the thing with the internet in general.
Attorney General Dominic Grieve said, if you're thinking that maybe Ryan Giggs won't come after you because he's too busy, don't worry. The Attorney General's office may bring contempt proceedings for breach of a privacy order. Just because you're on Twitter doesn't mean you can escape from the law.
Well, it'll be like England could be like Australia. The whole thing could be a prison colony.
Hey.
Yeah. Well, that's how it started. I'm not making that up.
Don't forget Georgia also started as a prison colony.
I didn't know that.
Don't leave them out. All right, on to the news fuse. Director of the Windows Phone 7, Joe Belfiore, was so excited about Apple's iOS 5 upgrades that he had to tweet about it saying, "Feeling flattered today. Lots of great Windows Phone ideas headed to iOS." That's right, Joe. Like lots of us, he thinks that Apple borrowed some ideas from other OSs, which, of course, they always do. We're sure some Android folks were thinking pretty much the same thing.
So flattered. Facebook's facial recognition feature rolled out to users outside the U.S. How do you get to use this amazing new feature? Don't worry, you've already been opted in by Facebook. If you want to turn off the feature, you'll have to dig into your privacy settings to do so.
A new software update is available for the RIM BlackBerry Playbook. I downloaded it today. This latest update brings a Facebook app, improved connectivity for video chats, in-app purchases, and a bunch of minor tweaks to just make everything work a little better. You can update your Playbook via Wi-Fi or by using the BlackBerry Desktop Manager. Just do it by Wi-Fi. It took no time at all.
Apple introduced iOS 5 yesterday. Breaking news.
Never heard of it.
You might have heard about it. Well, it's already been jailbroken. The official version of the OS isn't slated until fall, but the dev version released by Apple yesterday was cracked pretty darn quickly.
Not only that, but you can get iOS 5 because to jailbreak it, you have to have a special IPSW file. So even if you don't want to jailbreak, you could probably get the IPSW file and upgrade your phone.
That's pretty quick. Amazon held a shareholder meeting today where its founder and CEO Jeff Bezos was asked about the company's strategy. Quote, if it's still Amazon's philosophy to make bold bets, where are the losers? Bezos took the question as a compliment and said, while the company's gambles like Amazon Web Services and the Kindle have succeeded, he guarantees that not everything Amazon tries will work.
Facebook, Microsoft, Oracle, Qualcomm, RIM, and Yahoo all agree on one thing. That AT&T T-Mobile merger sounds like a winner. AT&T's acquisition of T-Mobile represents a near-term means of addressing the rising consumer demand, they said in a signed letter to that effect. Sprint must not be really too happy with these companies right now.
Say what you will about Android fragmentation, but the Apple iPhone has some slight splintering. Verizon iPhone users are currently locked out of the iCloud beta program because their iPhones are stuck at iOS 4.2.8 instead of the required 4.3.3. The Verizon iPhone has lagged behind in getting iOS updates, so AT&T iPhone users don't have this problem. So good for them.
Russian President Dmitry Medvedev wants his government to enable its citizens to license their works to an unlimited number of people for free. But in another way, Medvedev is proposing a Creative Commons-style legislation be drawn up by Russia's communications ministry. The new copyright laws come on the heels of Medvedev's meeting with the nation's top journalists and bloggers, and also after last week's UN proclamation that cutting off the internet because you are a copyright infringer violates your human rights. So now Russia and Australia on board with the UN
pioneering
position. All right, let's move on to the numbers. Of course, with the E3 conference going on, the Entertainment Software Association has to put out some press releases. And according to the organization representing the game industry, the average gamer today is, can you guess?
14.
Any other guesses?
I know.
Okay, so you can't guess.
2.
Average gamer today is 37 years old.
In human years?
Yeah, so they're kids.
37. Maybe I'm not old enough to appreciate gaming yet.
Moreover, the average game buyer is 41 years old, so they're old men. And the ESA said that 45% of parents play games with their kids at least weekly. They're basically trying to combat the idea here that gaming is for children.
I think they did that with the price of consoles. Like, here's a $400 console. Yeah, that's not a kid's toy.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Why do you say they're combating it?
Wait. Which Prager, go ahead.
No, I said, why do you say that they're combating it? Because the comment was just made that a console costs about $400. I'm wondering if even in the studies you can always spin the way your questioning works, so that you can appeal to a demographic that's more attractive to what your core buying audience is. So, I mean, I still think this has got to skew younger, and there's got to be something else going on in terms of where the buying power is, I think.
They asked at an AARP meeting, apparently.
And I'd also qualify what is a game. I think you'll find a lot of these numbers, for example, take into consideration things like Farmville. So if you consider your average Facebook demographic, for example, PopCap have released numbers in the past, and they've said that their kind of biggest audience is actually women in their kind of mid to late 30s, and so you think of what a gamer is, and it's basically nearly the polar opposite, and it's all a case of what the game is. If we did the same survey about who plays Modern Warfare, I can assure you it would be a very different kind of readout, really. But I'm all for it. I think that what you understand is games are so big now. They are, in many ways, the biggest entertainment medium, and they're so broad and mainstream, you can't really avoid it.
I think that's what the ESA is really trying to say is gaming is like movies. They're for everybody. Some movies are for kids. Some movies are for women. Some movies are for men. Games are just like that now. Let's move on to the calendar.
Okay, I'll try to fill in for Sarah.
Go for it.
Okay. World IPv6 Day is tomorrow, Wednesday, June 8th. Starts at midnight GMT on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. There's the calendar sound. Atrix 4G now available for $100 at AT&T. If you wanted a Gears of War Xbox for the 360, Gears of War Xbox 360, you got it. September 20th, $400, you can get it. And starting in October, you can get a wireless Xbox 360 wheel so you can pretend to drive. So good for you.
That IPv6 is a big test. A lot of people are going to be watching that. You probably won't notice it as a general web browser unless you're trying to use IPv6 to get to places like Yahoo or Google or Facebook. But it's a big step to figure out if we can actually make this transition in the future. So get some details. Test-IPv6.com. On to the emails, TNT@twit.tv. Lead us off, Iyaz.
We got an email from Jim, the space engineer from Fremont, California. AT&T crew, while I applaud Apple's efforts to differentiate themselves from Amazon and Google by simply scanning your hard drive for existing music, there appears to be a loophole that makes the music match seem rather pointless. Ignoring the question of why I'd pay annually to download music I've already paid for in a CD, let's say I go with Apple's $25 subscription, I want to get my money's worth. Theoretically, any song I can get on my hard drive will be matched and made available as an iTunes high-quality AAC original file. I suppose you could torrent a whole bunch of music just to plus up your selection, but that is illegal and risks a lawsuit. However, I'm sure the hackers among us are already wondering exactly how does Apple scan a song? Is it just looking at the ID3 tags of the iTunes artist/song name? What if I change the tags of this Blues Traveler song to be Thriller by Michael Jackson? Hey, what if I make 200 copies of that song and start happily setting the tags to whatever titles strike my fancy at that moment?
So we get the idea. He's saying, will you be able to spoof this? My guess is they are using something like the Music Genome Project that looks at a hash of the file, and if it meets a certain amount of confidence that that's the same file, then it will count as that music. And if you've bought it from iTunes, that's easy. If you've bought it from Amazon or maybe another service, that's probably going to match. If you've ripped it from your CD, I guess it's questionable whether it'll match or not. But Lala worked this way. Lala did this kind of scanning.
Yeah, it would scan your library and match it to theirs, and what it didn't find, it would upload it. And it worked pretty well.
And Apple bought Lala, so they probably have this technology just sitting around.
Yeah. So I'm not saying it's unhackable because nothing's unhackable, but I think this is going to be a hard one to spoof.
But for example, the iTunes Music, it's a higher bit depth, isn't it, than CDs, even though the kind of compression is slightly different. Isn't it like 24-bit or whatever the other thing is?
I don't know whether that's true or not. But
I don't know. I think it's still 16-bit from what I understand, but I could be mistaken.
But that wouldn't necessarily
I thought
change.
That was the big plus.
Yeah, that wouldn't necessarily change the scanning though. Because they're
no.
They're
But
looking
I just thought because he's talking about CDs and why would he bother with a CD? Obviously, there's a few reasons, but I also thought that there was potential for increased quality, I guess, maybe.
Well, there's increased quality over MP3s in the stuff that they're matching, so that's for sure. And it depends on how you've ripped your CDs, I guess. Finally, Don writes in and says, I'm writing in response to the coverage of the Apple announcement on the June 6th show. There was a comment, something like, what is wrong with adding features to improve, even if it impacts a small developer that already offered that feature? I know that Apple is still considered a smaller player, but isn't this what got Microsoft into so much trouble? Microsoft tried to offer antivirus, disk optimization, media players, etc., and were sued for crushing the competition. With Apple playing such a big role in the phone and tablet market, do you see a time soon where their underdog role will end and they will feel the pressures that Microsoft has had for all these years?
That's a huge difference, though. Microsoft was on like 90% of desktop computers or actual regular
computers.
Right, and
iPad's only on 82% of all tablets.
Right, but then the question is, what's the marketplace, right? That same thing with the iPhones. I know they have like, 20%, or iOS has some. It's always getting its butt kicked by Android. Quite honestly, Android keeps getting market share. So, I mean, as long as they're not a monopoly, theoretically they don't run into this issue. But that doesn't mean that in the tablet space, people could look at it that way. And, of course, people spin it. What is the tablet marketplace? Is it a PC marketplace or what?
David, do you think Apple's at risk of some kind of securities investigation, some kind of antitrust issue?
Legally only if there's some form of a monopoly going on, and that would be the only thing that would slow them down. I mean, in terms of being an underdog, the only reason they're considered an underdog is because they don't own the majority of the PC market. If you look at from a market capitalization perspective, I think yesterday there was a news story that said Apple is worth more than Microsoft and Intel combined as of their $315 billion valuation yesterday. So, I mean, it just all gets down to anti-competitiveness in a monopoly. And a monopoly is legal, but using that to be anti-competitive isn't.
All right, Web3143 in the chat room says he used to spoof Lala. He says all I had to do was match the song name and song length. Pretty easy, actually. So if iTunes...
That'd be quite interesting to test.
If iTunes does it that way, yeah.
So people will be testing it out.
Oh, I'm sure. We'll find out very shortly.
$25 is better than Spotify. Be great.
All right, David Prager, thanks for joining us on the show. Let folks know what's going on over there at Revision 3.
Thank you very much. Things are going great here. We're spending a lot of time down at E3, but next month we're going to be putting on a pretty big showdown during Comic-Con on July 21st at the House of Blues. So more details on that coming up.
All right, we'll see you there. We'll be at Comic-Con as well. So
cool.
I want an invite, please.
For sure, for sure.
Also, Terpster, always good to have you back on the show. Let folks know what you're up to and where they can find you online.
You can find me at about.me/the_T, and I'm up to all kinds of stuff. Nothing that interesting. You can see my Twitter below me, so by all means
Not on
follow
the audio
me.
podcast, they can't.
not on the audio one, but it's twitter.com/the_T. We're going to be meeting soon, aren't we, Tom?
That's right, Nerdtacular coming up in a couple weeks here. Less than a couple of weeks.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Can't wait. All right, folks, don't forget, we're still selling bricks. Not that many of them left. So if you want to get your name immortalized in the entryway to the new TWiT studios, go to bricks.twit.tv. You can customize the brick. Even on the larger one, you can put a logo on it, or maybe declare your membership in NSFW Show's Diamond Club.
Or if you think the bricks are a little bit too pricey, go find some other TWiT fans, and you could go in on one brick.
Yeah, do a pool.
And each of you gets like a letter on it or something.
Yeah, or a grain. Yeah. That depends on how many people you pool. Bricks.twit.tv. Thanks, everybody. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. Email us, TNT@twit.tv, or give us a call. Leave us a message, 260-TNT-SHOW. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.